Hey everybody, want to welcome you back to another video here on 2A Talking Tactical. I hope everybody's having a great day. It is gloomy and gray and pouring rain here in North Carolina, so hopefully you're not having to endure any of that kind of weather. So today's video, I'm changing gears a little bit. I wanted to bring you some very interesting news out of Arizona. I had heard about this bill couple of weeks ago. I didn't give much thought to it because I didn't think it would go anywhere, but surprisingly enough, it has gone somewhere. And I'm talking about House Bill 2843 in the state of Arizona. So, to give you a little bit of background, most of you, if you're a firearms owner, you're familiar with stand your ground laws. I think right now there are 30, 32, 33 states that have a stand your ground law. And what a stand your ground law is, for those of you who are not quite aware. So before the incident down in Florida back in 2012, where an individual shot and killed a young black African American, stand your ground laws were very far and few between. And if I'm wrong, somebody please correct me. And a lot of people didn't know what that was. Well, this individual that was behind the trigger in this shooting, he claimed stand your ground law in the state of Florida, which at the time that they did have. So anyway, moving forward, a lot of states revisited the, if you want to call it a castle doctrine law or stand your ground law, where it related to an individual having a duty to retreat. And what I mean by that, say if you were at your home, say outside doing yard work or whatever the case may be, or even inside your house, duty to retreat came in where if a individual either tried to break into your house or was coming on you or was on your property and you felt like there was an imminent danger of great bodily injury or death, you had a duty to retreat, meaning you had to make an effort to get away from them. If you were outside, you had to, say something to them, tell them to stop, go away, whatever the case may be. But you also had an obligation to try to avoid the confrontation, even though the individual was on your property. The same thing with your house. Say you were in your house, and a lot of people made jokes about this, was that, if somebody was trying to break in your house and you ended up shooting them and they fell halfway outside, halfway inside, put a knife or a gun in their hand and drag them inside so you wouldn't be charged. So the stand your ground laws, a lot of states revisited this and they made changes. Some didn't. Obviously, some did. And some states followed suit with other states, a neighboring state or whatever the case may be. Of course, it had to be voted on and all this and that. And every state's wording is a little bit different to some extent. Some states have a gray area. I believe up in Washington and even in New York, and I may be off on New York, but I'm pretty sure Washington, for example, it was kind of a gray area where you had a duty to retreat, but if the aggressor came on you or was advancing on you fairly quickly and you really couldn't, and you ended up using deadly force, then it was kind of looked at on a case by case basis, and that's why I say it is a gray area, and to my knowledge, they are still like that. So a lot of other states, you did not have to have a duty to retreat. Meaning, if I was outside raking leaves and I seen somebody walk across the road coming at me with a knife or a gun or something like that, I have no duty to retreat in the state of North Carolina. You can use force, the amount of force necessary to stop the threat. If I'm in my house and somebody's breaking in and I know this individual's not supposed to be there or they don't have permission to be there, and I feel like something bad's about to happen, then I can shoot and kill them. And for all intents and purposes, I am justified in that shooting because of the way that law is written here in North Carolina. So, like I said, every state is a little bit different. So, depending on what state you're in, you definitely want to look at the way your state's laws are written, what you are required to do, what is suggested that you try to do, or whatever the case may be. Just be clear on your state's laws as it relates to that. So moving forward, we're like in my last video, and I think the one before that, and obviously we all know this, we're having an influx with people crossing the border illegally. We've got people from Japan, we've got people from foreign countries that definitely don't like us, that we've gone to war with in the past. We've got people coming from Venezuela. There was a Venezuelan man arrested last week in that gruesome death down in Georgia. Mexico, I mean, the list goes on and on. So, we are all aware of what Texas is doing with putting up the containers and the razor wire. There's several states that are joining Governor Abbott in that job. I think it was North Dakota or South Dakota. I believe that state's governor sent down some National Guard troops and also sent down some state patrol officers last week to help them with that. So anyway, so in Arizona they don't necessarily have a stand your ground law. However, the way their statute is written, you do not have a duty to retreat. So I'm not exactly sure on the verbiage there, but I do know they don't technically have a stand your ground law, but you also don't have a duty to retreat, if that makes sense. So with everything going on, some of you may be aware of the individual, the older gentleman that shot and killed an immigrant. I think it was last year. There was a group of them that had encroached on his property, crossed the border illegally, had encroached on his property. I don't know the whole story. I don't know the facts, so I'm not going to speculate. But he fired some rounds at these individuals, and one of the rounds did strike one of the illegal immigrants, and it killed him. So this older gentleman was arrested and charged accordingly because, and this was in Arizona, because the individual that he shot and killed was only on his land. He was not trying to get to him, the shooter, or was trying to get into his house. So that's why the individual was charged. So now Arizona has, and bear with me here a little bit because I'm using some new software. So Arizona, a legislator, let me see if I can get to the right one right quick. So the bill was introduced by Justin Heap. So let me share this with you so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, yeah. So hopefully you can see that. So there you see it says Arizona House Bill 2843. The primary was Justin Heap, and all of these, he and all the co-sponsors are obviously Republicans. So interestingly enough, this was updated yesterday where it says engrossed. It has been read a second time, and from what I am reading and what I am understanding, this is going to go through. So there are some news, forget the word to call it, but there's some news organizations that start with A, start with C, start with N, that are going and saying that this bill gives land owners the right to murder, the right to kill. They're really not seeing this for what it is. Now, I understand uh, where some people can take this one way or the other. Does this create a slippery slope? Possibly so. However, these people are tired of our current government not doing anything. So if our government is not doing anything, then it's left to the state government and or these landowners. Um, I mean, we've all seen and heard about the damages these people that are crossing illegally are causing to fence lines. Livestock is getting out. They're, the livestock's making their way into roadways. They're making their ways into rivers and drowning. They just get gone. This is being very costly for farmers, cattle ranchers, and the like. So, and nobody's really doing anything about it. So what this bill does, it rewords some of the wording in the statute. And what I mean by that is they change words like from and to are, or, stuff like that. And again, I'm sorry. Let me get back to it here. I can show you what I'm talking about. They are wording or rewording. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so this is the bill, and this is off the Arizona legislation page. So this is the actual wording right now. So most of you are probably aware of this. But where the red letters are with the strike through, that's what's there now. The blue, what's in the blue is the proposed changes. And I'll read this if you can't see it. So it says, be it enacted by the legislature of the state of Arizona, Section 1, Section 13-407, Arizona Revised Statute is amended to read, and this is a general statute 13-407. Justification, use of physical force in defense of premises, definition. So basically what they're doing is they are rewording the definition of premise, what premise means. A person or his agent in lawful possession or control of premises is justified in threatening to use deadly physical force or in threatening or using physical force against another when and to the extent that a reasonable person would believe it immediately necessary to prevent or terminate the commission or attempted commission of a criminal trespass by the other person in or, and they're changing it from upon to on the premise. So that's basically saying on the land is basically what they're wanting to change now, instead of in the premise, which is a house or building or something like that. B, a person may use deadly physical force under subsection A only in the defense of himself or third persons as described in sections 13-405 and 13-406. So subparagraph C, they're wanting to change in this section to for the purposes of this section. Premises, quote unquote, means any real property, and they're changing from and to or. So that was a big thing in the case involving the elderly gentleman. This is why he is currently in jail, was because of that three-letter word right there. So they're wanting to change from the word and to or. Any structure, movable or immovable, permanent or temporary, and adapted from either or going from both to either. So it was that it had to be both the human residence, your house, or where you were staying, to either the human residence or lodging, whether occupied or not. So that's why I say back to you, depending on what state you're in, if you're interested in whether your state uh, has a stand your ground law or what the law is on protecting your property and you definitely need to check that out and stay up to date on that. So when I was talking about a slippery slope, what is I have to ask myself and be honest is, how far are people going to take this? Uh, I think if you are talking to an individual, a landowner that has had damage done because of the illegal immigrants coming across, or they honestly feel like, these people are causing legitimate damage and what have you, um, they're going to be letting lead fly. And, it's, I guess you could say, and I'm not saying I'm for this, I'm not saying I'm against it. I don't know. I'm not in these people's shoes, so I'm not going to judge and I'm not going to speculate. But, I guess it comes down to, is somebody going to be able to pull the trigger um, because somebody, cut a fence? Uh, that's the question. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a proponent for taking somebody's life unless my life or a third person that I do or don't know his life is in danger. That's a hard pill to swallow and have to live with the rest of your life. And if you're one of these bordering landowners, I mean it's that's a lot of responsibility, put on these property owners' shoulders. But obviously the state of Arizona is fed up with this. And the other thing here is how many states are going to follow this, because we're not only seeing crimes being committed by immigrants in the border states. We're seeing crimes being committed by the immigrants in Georgia. We're seeing crimes being committed by immigrants in New York, Washington, D.C. It's happening everywhere now. This has been going on so long that the first, we'll just say few immigrants, or the first flood of immigrants that crossed the border, a year or two ago, they've made their way to all 50 states, and you're starting to see a lot of them now committing crimes. I mean, look at New York, one of almost the furthest northeast state you can go to, minus Maine or New Hampshire or somewhere like that. That crossed, in Texas or New Mexico. So in 2 years, they've made their way northeast, and they've already been arrested and released for whatever reason, and they just continue to commit crimes. And even so much as going from, I don't want to call it a small crime because it's not a small crime, but from stealing a vehicle or vandalism to murder. You've got illegal immigrants. You got one that killed a 2-year-old about a week and a half ago. It's happening everywhere. If it hasn't happened in your state, it's sad to say that it's more than likely just a matter of time. If it hasn't happened in your town, it's more than likely just a matter of time. So we all need to be prepared for that. But I found this bill very interesting, and also that it was updated yesterday, and it does look like that it's going to go through. So when I also looked at this, I was curious who all voted for it, and it was the vote count. All the Republicans in Arizona voted for it, and all the Democrats voted against it. And it was I forget the number now, but it was a it was a big difference. So all that being said, it's clear that people are tired of it. I'm looking at it now. I'll share it with you. So there were 31 yays and 28 nays. And let me get it back up here. Okay. Yeah. So, it's, and I found it really interesting that several Republicans that are either Miss Pena, Michelle Pena, she is her dad is an illegal immigrant. I don't know when he came across or any of that, but I was curious as to whether where these individuals were born. So Michelle Pena, she was born in Arizona. She's the daughter of an immigrant, and there was another individual, Lupe. I can't remember his last name. He is he was actually born in Arizona, so but he is of Mexican descent. So anyway, I wanted to bring that to you. I'm going to keep an eye on it and see exactly what happens with it. Like I said, you can look at the votes. Obviously, the governor's got to sign it, but I think they're all fed up with it, and it's going to be interesting to see who all follows suit. Is Texas going to follow suit? Is New Mexico going to follow suit? California has a stand your ground law. Um, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I do know they have a stand your ground law. So it'll be interesting to see what each state, especially on the border or the border states, what they end up doing with it. So anyway, just wanted to bring you up to date on that. Again, I appreciate all the support. If you haven't subscribed and you're liking the content, please think about subscribing. I'm going to try to put out another video today before I head out of town for a few days. I may do some short videos while I'm out of town. I don't know yet. But if you like the video, you want to see more of it, give me a like. I do see that. If you want to see some more information or another state, what other states are doing, or if you know of something you want me to report on it, leave the information down in the comments and let me know. And as always, stay safe, stay armed, and be blessed.